Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry with College Football Stop, bringing you another show today. Super excited about this show, man. We got a little update on the Michigan stuff that's going on. Nothing crazy, but I think that it could get crazy real soon. And then I want to get into my most important players for Ohio State to finish out this season. Kind of just guys I think need to step their game up, guys that I think are going to be essential to this team down the road. And then I got some bold predictions for the game coming up this weekend. Not going to be a super long show. I had a couple things come up this morning, which I'm going to get into that first, and then we'll get into the Michigan stuff and kind of finish it off with Ohio State stuff. So, just this morning was kind of crazy. I was, obviously I've talked about on here about having kids. My one son has special needs, so it's go through a little bit of rough times sometimes. This morning was on the way to taking him to school, and he started choking on like a goldfish that he was eating, and he threw up all over the place. It was a mess. And then I had to take him back home, clean him up, get him to school, and all that good stuff. And I threw my morning off, and then some other things came up. So hey, we're starting a little bit late, but we're gonna get it here for today. Um, Everything's good though, man. He's fine. He just was choking. Sometimes kids choke, especially him. He has autism, special needs, and he has a little bit of trouble like swallowing and stuff like that. So it is what it is. That's my little homie, man. I'm not tripping. But let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna start with the Michigan stuff. I've been leading with this because I like to get it out of the way, but I do like to talk about it, and then we'll get into some Ohio State things. So the update on the Michigan stuff is just basically the Big Ten gave Michigan like their notice of discipline or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the actual legal term for it is, but they gave it to Michigan, and then Michigan had like 48 hours to respond. They responded, and I think you can find on Twitter the actual response that Michigan sent. I did not read it. I may go and read it later, but it's a lot. It's like a 10-page response. But I mean, from what I've seen, they're basically saying the Big Ten doesn't have the right to punish them right now, and there's no evidence that states that their coaches were involved with this. We'll see how it happens. Excuse me, I've kind of been firm on my stance that I think that the Big Ten is probably going to administer a punishment. Basically, if they don't, then that means that Michigan will have cheated in 2021, 2022, and half of this year at least, and they will get no punishment for it because the only thing that came of this situation was Connor Stallions not being with the organ or with the team anymore, and he resigned. So that's not a punishment for them. Like he got suspended by the university, but then he resigned. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I think that we will have an update probably today or tomorrow from the Big Ten on what their plan is going forward after reading Michigan's response. And I mean, I've kind of, like I said, I've been firm on my stance that I think that they probably will administer a punishment. And I don't think that Michigan's going to take them to court over it. We'll see. But I think that that's kind of smoke and mirrors. I think that they're just basically we're trying to get the Big Ten to drop it and not administer the punishment at all. But from what I've heard is that the Big Ten had lawyers ready and have already had them hired and working with them on this process prior to even administering it to Michigan. So I don't know, man. That's it. Not a huge update on that stuff today, just because we're kind of in wait and see mode. I mean, at this point, I'm almost kind of ready to just get back to football. I know that it is important because they did mess with the integrity of the game, and I have also been firm on my stance that what they did and the way that they did it does have a huge impact on the outcome of the games and like knowing every play, the outcome of multiple plays throughout a game, which could ultimately change the outcome of the game. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated on it as new information comes out. That's going to be it for the Michigan stuff for today. I want to move on to some Ohio State stuff. I'm excited about this weekend. It's a night game. Michigan State, obviously not a great team that we're going to be playing against, but I think it'll be a good opportunity to get some young guys some reps. Um, it'll be a a good opportunity for our offense to kind of get on the right track because they've been struggling this year. Obviously, they've been having their issues, but I don't know, man. We'll see how it works out. Um, I'm excited about the uniforms. That's I forgot to say that. The all gray unis, they look sweet. They Ohio State on their Twitter page, if you didn't see it already, they released the here. Let me see. I might be able to show them to you guys here. Let me get that pulled up really quick. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it, man. Just because I'm always excited when Ohio State plays, and at the same time, it's like these types of games are just um, how do I get rid of this? Okay, there we go. Anyway, these types of games are games that you need to get your team on the right track. We've had some rough games so far this year, and I just think that this offense needs to really kick it into gear, and they need to step their game up, and they need to go out there and put up like 45 points. I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to. I've been hard on Kyle McCord, and a lot of people have defended him, but at the same time, like if you can't put up 45 points on a bad team, like the weapons are there. So I don't know. Let me see if I can show this to you guys real quick. All right, there it is. So that's the uniforms Ohio State posted on Twitter. Just again, I mean, they look dope. They also posted JT Tuimoloau's, so that's whatever, man. I'm excited about them. I think that everybody's gonna look good in them, except maybe I don't know. I made a joke. Kyle McCord's gonna look like a dork, but we'll see. I feel like he kind of does all the time, but he's not really like the most swaggy guy. All right. So anyway, I want to get into what I think that Ohio State's most important players, right? So basically, what I was looking at with this is guys who I feel like need to step their game up, guys who I think need to be playmakers, not just guys who are out there doing their job. And I'm doing this off the top of the head. Like I said, I had a crazy morning, so a lot of this show today is going to be not. I didn't really prepare as much as I wanted to because I usually prepare before the show. But the first guy is the one who I have on my graphic. I'm going to start on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go Sonny Styles. I personally think that Lathan Ransom might be out for a while. I think there's a chance he plays like the Michigan game, but we don't have a real update on him yet. And usually when Ryan Day doesn't have like at least a back ass or back ass, a backwards update on someone, um, if that's the case, they're usually not ready to go. Now, if it's like a season-ending thing, he usually does say that, so I don't think that's the case. But Sonny Styles has stepped into that role that Lathan Ransom was playing, and I think that having him there is actually is a good thing because when we start going against teams with better athletes, get into your Michigans and into the college football playoffs, having a guy like Sonny Styles out there is going to be huge. I mean, the dude's a freak athlete, and he is a great tackler. He is, he's a great blitzer. So, if you look at the Rutgers game, there was a couple plays that Sonny made huge plays in that game. There was at least like two where he hit the running back in the backfield, and there was one where the quarterback ran. It was like a third down, and Sonny stopped him like 3 yards short of the first down. It looked like he was going to get it. So I don't know, man. We need Sonny Styles to be at his peak performance, and I want him to continue getting better and better. And it's kind of crazy because that dude's kind of been shuffled around. They have him playing that nickel role, or at least that's what they did before Lathan Ransom got injured. And that nickel role for him was kind of like sometimes a nickel role, sometimes a third linebacker. They have him lining up like right next to the defensive end sometimes. So I mean, he's a super versatile player. I just think that they need to keep using him, and they need to, or if they do, I think that he's going to make plays in big moments, and that's going to win games for us. So that's my first most important player. My second one is going to be on offense. I'm going to go with Carnell Tate. So I think that Carnell Tate is starting to get more and more playing time. And I think the reason for that is because Julian Fleming honestly hasn't been playing his best ball right now. Every single game, he's had a drop. I don't want to say every game. Basically, every game, Julian's had a drop where, I mean, with the quarterback situation we have right now, our quarterback's not throwing dimes consistently. So when he does throw a dime, they got to catch that ball. Like, you can't Cardinal Tate had one early in the year. I don't know if you guys remember all the way back to the Indiana game. Cardinal Tate had a drop where Kyle McCord threw a really good ball, and a lot of people were using that to defend Kyle, which is whatever. I mean, to be fair, people have dropped the ball a lot more this year than they did over the last couple years. I don't know if that's a result of having a Mecca out and some of those young guys just not being ready, or we have Xavier Johnson in there a lot of the time who I'm not going to say anything bad about XJ, but he has dropped a few passes. Obviously, G. Scott dropped a pass last game. That would have been a huge first down. So, I mean, they got to get better. And I think that one of the ways they can get better is by giving Carnell Tate more reps. Every time the kid's out there, he's routing people up. I think that he has to continue learning the offense because there are some plays where he is not supposed to get the ball, depending on the coverage, and he kind of doesn't do what he's supposed to do, like clearing guys out and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think that kid is a superstar, man, and I hope that they will utilize him the way that I think they should because he's that good and he's a difference maker. I think that having a Mecca back and having Marv and then mixing in Carnell Tate with those two receivers, if they're gonna like double Marv or slant the defense towards Marv, Carnell's gonna win his one on one. So that's my second one. I'm gonna do two on offense and two on defense in terms of most important players. So we'll shift back to the defensive side of the ball. And I'm gonna go with let me see. Like I said, we're coming off the top of the head with this. I'm gonna go with Josh Proctor. So both of the safeties. Obviously, this defense, Jim Knowles has always said, is a safety-driven defense, and honestly, we're seeing that more this year than we did last year. But I think that there was a noticeable difference in Ohio State's defense in the Rutgers game once Josh Proctor went out of the game. He was having a really good game. I mean, if you go back and watch it, I don't know if you guys have rewatched the game yet, but I didn't realize how many plays that Josh Proctor was making in that game. So I think he's one of the most important players on this team, and he's a guy who I said yesterday, he's the guy who I really want on my team once you get into like a playoff or a big game setting. Because to me, what happens in those games is things kind of shift away from like, okay, the most disciplined team, the team that is not going to make the most mistakes is the team that's going to win. I think that it kind of shifts to the team that makes the most plays, most splash plays is going to win. And that's what Josh Proctor is. He's a walking highlight. And we've seen that this year. I mean, he had a pick six against Maryland when we needed it. We were struggling against Rutgers, and he came up and laid a hit on someone, which knocked himself out of the game. But Jordan Hancock intercepted the ball and ran it back for a touchdown. I mean, all year this year, when we've needed plays, Josh Proctor's came up. And like I said, I think as much as I like the young guys, the Kai Stokes, the Malik Hartfords, those guys are going to be superstars probably at some point at Ohio State. But when Josh Proctor went off the field, there was a noticeable difference in terms of just having that guy to clean everything up on the back end and, just someone to make a play when a play needed to be made. So that's my third one, Josh Proctor. And then I'm going to move on to my last offensive guy. And this one's going to be obvious. The probably the most important player on this team, in my opinion, is, I don't want to say most important, but one of the most important is going to be TreVeyon Henderson. Obviously, Trey came back from injury, had two huge games, over 200 all-purpose yards in both of those games. And honestly, I just think that could be what this team is now. I think that they need to lean into that. Like, if we have to run the ball to win the game, run the ball to win the game. Like, if you give TreVeyon Henderson 20 carries in a game, he's going to take one of those carries for 30 yards. He's going to take at least one of those carries for over 30 yards and a touchdown. And he's just a playmaker. And, a lot of people thought that Trey was that guy who couldn't get you 4 yards when the play was blocked for 2. And that's just not him this year. That's not what he's been all year. And I'll stand on that. People said that in the beginning of the year, but that wasn't who he was. TreVeyon Henderson was that guy who was going to get you those extra yards. And honestly, he had Trey kind of had like the short end of the stick a little bit because he played most of his time so far this year in the beginning of the year when the offensive line was still trying to gel. And they were honestly not very good at run blocking to start the season off. But as the season's progressed, the offensive line has gotten better and better and better at run blocking. And I would actually contest that. A lot of people say they've gotten worse at pass blocking, but I don't think that. I think that they're about the same. I just think that Kyle McCord's got to be a little bit better and more alert when he's in the pocket, and that's been an issue all year. So I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. Those are my four most important players for this team to reach all of their goals. I want to shift a little bit and talk about the Michigan State game. I have some bold predictions. Again, like I said, did not prepare for the show today, so these are going to be coming off the top of my head. But we'll see if we can make them pretty bold. I'm going to do maybe three or four really bold predictions, and then do uh, let's see, and then do one. Hold on one second. And then I'll do one that's like really bold, that's kind of like over the top crazy. So let's go ahead and get into that. Looking back at last week, I had let's see, I had Travion Henderson 200 plus yards. I think I was talking about rushing yards, but he went over 200 all-purpose yards. I had Carnell Tate with a receiving touchdown. Obviously, that one did not happen. He's only had one this year. And that was from Devin Brown. And then Sonny Styles interception. That did not happen. Kenyatta Jackson, 2 impact plays. That did not happen. Travion Henderson will outgame Rutgers. That was like my wild one. And that did not happen, which it could have happened if Ohio State's defense would have stepped up, but they didn't. All right. So it's kind of been a tradition for me every week that he's playing to have a Travion Henderson bold prediction. So I'm going to go ahead and go with one of those to start off the bat. I'm going to say against Michigan State, Travion Henderson will score 3 touchdowns. I think that's pretty bold. I don't know when the last time he had a 3 touchdown game is. I think that he'll get 2 rushing and 1 receiving touchdown. And honestly, I think that all of these will probably come in the first half. And then I don't think Trey will play too much in the second half. I think they want to make sure that he's healthy going into the Michigan game, because if you look back at last year in the biggest games Ohio State played, not having Travion Henderson was a huge hit. I mean, just think about the Georgia game, when Marv went out of that game. If Ohio State had Travion Henderson out there and was handing him the ball, all it would take is one play for him to break it, and Ohio State would have won that game. I mean, let's say late in the fourth quarter, Travion Henderson broke one run for a touchdown out of his 8 runs he got in that quarter or whatever, because they were trying to run the clock out. They were running the ball. So I don't know, man. I really like Trey, and I think that they need to make sure he's healthy going into the end of this season. And then I'm going to do a defensive bold prediction. I think Denzel Burke is going to play this week, and I'm going to say Denzel gets an interception. I think he only has 1 this year. Obviously, he's been phenomenal, though. Every time he's been on the field, he's kind of just been a shutdown corner and locked down one whole side of the field. But he only has 1 interception, so that makes it bold. And I think that he'll get one in this game versus Michigan State, because they are willing to throw the ball. And as long as he plays, he's going to be locking down whoever's out there with him. Let me see here. I'm going to do another defensive one, I think. I think that we're about due for a Mike Hall breakout game. I think that he's been getting better and better. He even said himself that he felt like he was in a little bit of a slump, and that he was working with Larry Johnson to try to get out of that slump. I think that we're due for him to have a breakout game. I'm going to say Mike Hall has 4 tackles for loss in this game. So, I think he'll get maybe 2 sacks and then 2 TFLs on handoffs. And like I said, I think that he's like a first-round talent, and the stats have not shown that. But if you watch him, he's out there and he can dominate a guy in front of him. He did say, and we've seen this like from watching all 22 film and stuff. He did say that he feels like he's kind of getting out of his gap sometimes, which has always kind of been his problem, if there is one. So I don't know, man. I expect for him to have a big game. Like I said, 4 tackles for loss for Mike Hall. And then let me see here. I'm going to do one more on the offensive side of the ball. Listen, I've been hard on Kyle McCord all year. I think that eventually he's going to put it all together. At some point in this season, he will put it all together. And it's kind of crazy because the season's almost over. But if it's going to happen, it needs to happen now, because this is probably going to be like, I would say it's one of the worst teams that you'll play, especially in the second half of the year, with them being coachless and just kind of everything being out of whack with Michigan State. So I'm going to say that Kyle McCord will throw for over 300 yards. I think that's bold for him. I'll have to go back and look at his stats, but I don't think that he's done that too many times this year. Let me look at it while I'm doing this here. I'm thinking of my like extra bold prediction because there's one that I'm gonna put in. Like I said, that's gonna be like kind of wild. It would be crazy for it to happen, but all the other ones are just like okay, they're bold, but they're possible. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up Kyle's stats and see how many 300-yard games he's had. But anyway, while I'm doing that, let me know, guys, if you guys have any questions or anything in the chat. Let me know. Obviously, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Come back for I'll be live like every day at 10 a.m. I know this show's a little bit later because, like I explained in the beginning, my son got sick this morning. It was kind of my day was a little thrown out of whack because of that. So let me see. Looking at Kyle McCord's games this year. Oh man, I just had it and got rid of it. Sorry about that. Dude, this thing is playing ads. All right, I'm getting rid of this. Whatever. Anyway, he hasn't done them that many times. Now, my final prediction on here, which is going to be the most bold prediction out of all of them, I'm going to say that Ohio State pitches a shutout this weekend. Ohio State's defense allows 0 points, and that's something that really doesn't happen very often. I mean, I can't even remember the last time they had a shutout game, but I think that they're due for one. This defense has been playing good all year and is allowing, I think, like a 10.5 points per game or something like that throughout the year. I think they're going to pitch a shutout, and this is going to be like the game where they put it all together, and I think they'll remain number one after this week in the college football playoff rankings. Even with Georgia playing a ranked Ole Miss team and probably beating them, I think that Ohio State will actually look like the number one team in the country this week. And we'll go from there. I think, like I said, I'm excited about this game. I'm excited about this weekend. If you guys come for my show tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about kind of all the games going on around college football. We'll have a small Michigan update depending on what happens if anything is released. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up there. Thanks for coming, guys. Like I said, come back tomorrow around 10 a.m. I'll be live. We'll be talking about all the games around college football. Maybe a little deeper of a dive into the Ohio State versus Michigan game or Michigan State game, excuse me. And peace out, guys. You guys have a good day. Later.